What happens when desire collides with identity in a way you never expected? I'm diving into my experience as an American man navigating sexual relationships with Asian women, a journey that was as revealing as it was complex. This is my raw, unfiltered story of attraction, introspection, and the psychological layers behind it all. I never thought I'd be sharing something this personal, but here I am, laying it all out, my experiences, my mistakes, and the psychological deep dive that came with being an American guy who's had sexual relationships with Asian women. This isn't just about the physical. It's about the emotional, cultural, and mental roller coaster that came with it. I'm no expert, just a guy who's been through it, and I'm going to break it down with honesty, pulling apart the psychology, the highs, the lows, and the messy bits in between. Buckle up, because this is going to get real. It started a few years ago when I moved to a city with a vibrant Asian community. I'm a 30-something guy, single, curious, and open to new experiences. Growing up in a small American town, my exposure to Asian culture was limited, mostly sushi restaurants and K-dramas my sister watched. But in this new city, I was surrounded by diversity, and I found myself drawn to Asian women. At first, I didn't think much of it, just attraction, right? But as I started dating and hooking up, I realized there was more going on beneath the surface, psychologically and emotionally. Let's get into the why. Attraction isn't random. It's shaped by biology, culture, and personal history. For me, it was a mix of novelty and stereotypes I didn't even realize I'd internalized. Asian women, in my mind, were tied to ideas of elegance, mystery, and femininity, images fed by media and pop culture. Psychologically, this is called schema formation, where your brain builds a mental shortcut based on what you've seen or heard. I wasn't consciously chasing a stereotype, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't influence me. The exoticism factor was there, and it made me feel like I was stepping into something exciting, almost forbidden. The first relationship was with Mia, a Korean-American woman I met at a bar. She was confident, witty, and we clicked instantly. Our chemistry was electric, and when things got physical, it felt like a new world opened up. The positive side? It was thrilling. New experiences always are. Sex with Mia felt intimate in a way I hadn't expected, like we were crossing cultural lines together. But here's where it got tricky. I caught myself overthinking. Was I attracted to her as a person, or was I fetishizing her background? This is where cognitive dissonance kicked in, my brain wrestling with the gap between my values and my actions. Psychologically, this ties to objectification theory. When you're attracted to someone based on a group trait, like ethnicity, it can slide into seeing them as an other rather than an individual. I didn't want to be that guy, but I had to face the possibility. I started noticing how I'd focus on Mia's Asianness, her accent, her cultural habits, more than her personality. It wasn't intentional, but it was there, and it made me feel guilty. Guilt is a powerful motivator. It pushed me to reflect on my biases. I talked to Mia about it, and she was blunt. Don't put me on a pedestal because of my culture. Just see me. That hit hard. It forced me to confront how I'd been projecting fantasies onto her. Over time, I dated other Asian women, Lila, a Chinese-American artist, and Aiko, a Japanese exchange student. Each experience was different, but they all stirred up similar psychological patterns. The highs were incredible. The passion, the connection, the feeling of learning something new about another culture through intimacy. Sex, at its best, is a bridge between people, a way to share vulnerability. But the lows were real too. I struggled with self-doubt, wondering if I was chasing these relationships for the wrong reasons. Was I seeking validation through conquest? Was I trying to prove something to myself? These questions gnawed at me, especially when things didn't work out. Let's talk about my personality, because it shaped this whole experience. I'm an ENFJ on the Myers-Briggs scale, extroverted, intuitive, feeling-driven, and judgmental. ENFJs are people pleasers, always seeking harmony and connection. That's me to a T. I dove into these relationships, want to connect deeply, but my idealistic streak made me overcomplicate things. I'd build up these women in my head, imagining our differences as some grand, romantic narrative. That's called idealization, and it's a double-edged sword. It feels good until reality crashes in. My decision-making is heavily emotional, guided by how things feel rather than cold logic. That's why I jump into these relationships fast, chasing the spark, but then overanalyze when things got real. The darker side came when I realized how these experiences affected my view of myself and others. With Lila, things ended badly. We hooked up a few times, but I got too intense, pushing for a deeper relationship she wasn't ready for. She called me out, saying I seemed more into the idea of her than the real her. Ouch! That stung because it was true. Psychologically, this is projection, putting your desires or insecurities onto someone else. I was projecting my need for connection onto her, ignoring her boundaries. The fallout left me feeling like a creep, questioning my ethics. Had I been using these women to fill a void? The shame was heavy, and it made me pull back from dating for a while. The impact on my life was subtle but deep. My family didn't know the details. I'm not exactly going to tell my mom, hey, I'm wrestling with my attraction to Asian women. But they noticed I was moodier, more withdrawn, especially after things ended with Lila. I'd snap over small things, like my brother teasing me about being single. This is classic displacement. Taking out your inner turmoil on someone safe. Romantically, I started second-guessing myself. I worried I'd never have a normal relationship because I was too caught up in my own head. This is called self-fulfilling prophecy, when your fears shape your reality. I had to work hard to break that cycle. From a psychological perspective, sexual attraction across cultures is a minefield of biases and desires. There's something called the exotic allure effect, where people are drawn to what's different because it feels novel. That was definitely part of my story. But novelty can wear off, and if you're not careful, it can lead to fetishization, where you reduce someone to their cultural traits. I had to learn to see these women as individuals, not as representatives of Asian culture. That meant unlearning stereotypes and being honest about my motivations. It wasn't easy. Confronting your biases never is, but it made me a better person. The science backs this up. Sexual attraction triggers a cocktail of brain chemicals. Dopamine for the thrill, oxytocin for bonding, and cortisol when things get stressful. For me, the dopamine rush in new experiences was addictive, but when relationships ended, the cortisol spike left me anxious and moody. This is why breakups, even casual ones, hit hard. Your brain's reward system takes a hit. Over time, I learned to balance this by focusing on emotional intimacy, not just physical. Mindfulness helped. Taking a step back to notice my thoughts without judging them. It's like hitting pause on your brain's chaos. My beliefs played a big role, too. I've always valued openness and growth, but I also had a blind spot. I thought being open-minded meant I was immune to bias. Wrong. This experience taught me that everyone's got blind spots, and growth means owning them. My ENFJ tendency to seek harmony made me avoid conflict, which was a mistake. With Aiko, I ignored red flags, like how she seemed more into the idea of dating an American than me as a person, because I didn't want to rock the boat. Next time, I'll speak up sooner. The biggest lesson? Relationships, sexual or not, are mirrors. They show you who you are, flaws and all. I learned to question my motives, to see people as individuals, and to embrace discomfort as a path to growth. It wasn't all smooth. There were nights I felt like a failure, like I'd never get it right. But those moments pushed me to reflect, to read up on psychology, to talk to friends about my struggles. I came out stronger, more self-aware, and less afraid of my own messiness. Philosophically, this experience made me think about authenticity and connection. In existentialism, authenticity means living true to yourself, not just chasing desires or societal scripts. I realized I've been chasing a script. American guy meets exotic woman without questioning it. Letting go of that meant embracing my own complexity, flaws and all. It's like what Nietzsche said about becoming who you are. This journey wasn't just about sex or attraction. It was about peeling back the layers of my identity and choosing to live more honestly, even when it's messy. This was an easy story to tell, but it's mine, warts and all. If you're navigating your own desires and doubts, know this. The answers aren't simple, but the questions are worth asking. They'll lead you closer to who you really are.